Good afternoon, dear students. Now we continue our lecture about how the Manas like Chinggis Khan. As in the case of Chinggis Khan, Khan Manas is also linked to this image of mythic gods. The following excerpts are part of the fixed traditional descriptions of Manas in the epic. He is created from the beam between the sky and earth. He is created from the waves of a river under the moon. He is created from the blend of gold and silver. Manas isn't an ordinary man, but a hero of tremendous power and wrath. When filled with rage, his eyes turn red like fire, and he desires to drink human blood. He is destined to conquer the world even before he is born. In addition, Manas is always accompanied and protected by the spirits of powerful animals such as a black striped tiger. A lion is by his side, a giant black bird flies about him, and a dragon in front of him. Traditionally, Turkic epic heroes, like the Mongolian heroes, were lonely. They fought, they fought with ogres or giants alone. When a hero was alone, he had to have some supernatural powers to defeat the enemy. In Manas, we still see the traits of the ancient theme. Physical description of Manas reflects the supernatural image of the ancient hero. Although some of the main stories in the epic deal with recent history of the 70th and 80th centuries, there are many archaic elements and themes in the epic which reflect its ancient origin. As time passed, the primitive plot as well as the archaic language of the epic went through many poetic transformations, adapting to the new historical, social, economic, and religious developments to each century or decade. We find both ancient and recent poetical elements in hero Manas description. For example, as traditional epithets, Manas has a tiger, lion, blue-maned, and bloodthirsty, which reflect the ancient totemic religious worldview of the Kyrgyz. The new generation of epic singers added new characteristics to the hero according to their own personal knowledge and poetic innovation. Those supernatural descriptions of Manas' personality were renewed. For example, the 19th century epic singers who lived during the peak of Islamic Sufi influence among the nomadic Kyrgyz made the hero Manas a pious Muslim uh, who fight against the infidels. Side by Karalaev and had all the ancestors of Manas be blessed by Allah, the Prophet Muhammad, and Sufi saints. The religious world of Manas. From the opening line of the epic Manas, we see the presence of Islam, especially Sufism, in Kyrgyz nomadic culture. The singer begins by describing Manas' ancestors and associates their greatness and merit with Sufi holy men. His forefathers were all Khans, blessed by Kidir from the beginning. His ancestors were all khans blessed by Kedir from the beginning, in place where they had stayed overnight. Sacred shrines were built, for God had blessed them from the beginning in the place where its song plays. The Central Asian nomads and nomadic empires didn't exist in isolation. They interacted with other neighboring sedentary states and cultures such as China's Persian and Russian. As a result of their direct and indirect economic and political interactions with the sedentary world, they borrowed and adapted many of the social, cultural, and religious values. When in various historical periods the nomadic Turks, including the Kyrgyz, adopted Islam, their religious worldview, now wrongly called shamanism, was heavily influenced by the new Islamic faith. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Islam, particularly its Sufi branch, spread widely among the Central Asian nomads. Along with Islamic and Sufi ideas, beliefs, and practice, many Arabic and Persian religions, terms, and expressions were incorporated into the Turkic language, including Kyrgyz. The original meaning of many of those religious terms and ideas, however, was lost or altered during the incorporation into the nomadic Kyrgyz culture. The role of Islam among the nomadic Kyrgyz and Kazakhs has always been a controversial topic in Western scholarship. Thomas Alsen maintains that the Central Asian, Turkic and Mongol nomads possesses rich nomadic cultures, which their own cosmological precepts, aesthetic norms, and system of moral and economic values. And it was these indigenous worldviews and tastes that provided the criteria for borrowing when they encountered and survived the cultural richness of the sedentary world. Olsen explores how nomadic Mongols rulers made use of the culture and economic resources of the sedentary subjects and argues nomadic didn't borrow randomly but selectively by filtering new external elements through their own cultural norms and aspirations. He compares this selective borrowing to a psychological mechanism known as reidentification. That is, whenever individuals or cultures encounter a new phenomenon, there is a pronounced tendency to place it into an established category that is identify the new with something already familiar from the experience. This concept of the reidentification offers the best means to understand the history and nature of Islam Sufism in nomadic Kyrgyz society. Kyrgyz Islam has never been the same Islam practiced in other Muslim countries such as Saudi, Arabic, Kuwait, Iran. Today, new scholarly findings show that communal and ancestral aspects which make life possible from the distinctive and central focus of Inner Asia religious life. The Kyrgyz people honor the spirits of their ancestors for they believe in those spirits' strong power to bring misfortune to an individual and family or community. If they aren't remembered, respected, and offered special food accompanied by a recitation from the Quran. In Sagambayor's version of Manas, for example, old Jacob, father of Manas, visits a mazar, a sacred place, usually the tomb of a Sufi saint, and asks for a child. Both in Sagbakar Lives and Sagambayor's versions, Jacob's wives advise him to offer a feast to the people, including the poor, orphans, and widows, by slaughtering many livestock. In other words, as Divine Divis asserts, the ancestral spirits are the central focus of the most common and most sacred religious practice among Inner Asia peoples. In particular, in the Sufi concept of saint or saint worship nicely fits into the existing cult of ancestor of the nomadic Turks. However, it is important to note that institutionalized Sufism, Wali, and Tariqa complexes involving a strong devotion of disciples to Sufi masters, which are found in other parts of Muslim world, don't exist among the Turk nomads. In contrast, the Sufi order of Naqshbandiya, founded in the 14th century in Bukhara, was quite popular in pro-Soviet Uzbek urban life. Another important factor which must have made a Sufism attractive to the Kyrgyz nomadic culture was music. As we know, music is important in Sufism. The nomadic Kyrgyz also had a great respect and love for music, songs, wisdom, poetry, and epic songs. The native oral poets and singers were the ones who spread the new religious ideas and knowledge of Sufism through their improvised wisdom poetry. Under Sufi influence, a new generation of Kyrgyz oral poets emerged. This group of 18th and 9th century oral poets called Zamanachi Akindar, poets of time. By Kyrgyz scholars thinks about changing times, much of this poetry refers to the Russian colonial period in the 19th century. Although most of these poets were literally in Arabic, they composed their songs orally in traditional Kyrgyz poetic structure, keeping the 7-8 syllables in each verse line, following alliteration and rhythm, and accompanied themselves on the komus, the Kyrgyz three-stringed guitar. The poetry dealt with Sufi religious ideas as well as Kyrgyz philosophical concepts and ideas about the world and the next world, about nature, sun, water, trees, youth, and old age. We know little about the actual spread of Sufism among the nomadic Kyrgyz. However, from the presence of many Sufi religious terms and ideas in the Kyrgyz language, especially in Manas, we can say that Sufism was better received by the nomadic Kyrgyz than traditional Orthodox Islam. One of the war cries or praise which the hero Manas and his Kyrgyz people use is Babaydin or Babaydin Naqshbandi, the founder of the 14th century Sufi order Naqshbandiya, which was popular in Central Asia. Most of the key Sufi terms found in Manas are still actively used in Kyrgyz, but have lost their original meanings. The Kyrgyz, however, pronounce this word according to their own linguistic characteristic. Sufi, Sopu, Oluya, protege of God who possesses some supernatural power. Kalip, Kalpa, Kalipa, Nafs, Napis, personal ego, Pir, Sufi master, Dervish, wandering Sufi dervish, Iman, Owel, Agubal, mystical state in Sufi practice. The presence of Islam and Sufism in Manas doesn't in any way determine the significance of the Kyrgyz native or pre-Islamic religions worldview. It exists side by side with Islamic Sufi ideas and beliefs. Okay, guys, now we over our lecture, and after we finish.